All right, bro. Here you go. You're all set. You're live, buddy.
All right. Good afternoon, tokers and tokettes. Welcome to another episode of In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio live feed from our Facebook account. You guys want to check us out? Go like all of our pages. We have a group page as well, In the Weeds. And this week we have Grant on from Vermont Pure CBD. We're really excited to talk to him, guys. We have a lot of stuff to talk about today. One of the greatest things is just another small craft company here in Vermont. So like us, share it. Go find him, go find us, and we're going to get right into it. Grant, how you doing today, bud?
Awesome. I really appreciate you having me on the show today, Joe, and I look forward to getting in the weeds with you guys.
Yeah, definitely, right?
Awesome.
And so you're a co-owner of Vermont Pure CBD, right? Vermont, in its own way, has been really an interesting state to manufacture, maneuver, and correct. Tell us a little bit about your journey to get to Vermont Pure CBD.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a little bit of a long road to get to the point where we're at today. And I went to college down at University of Rhode Island, and I studied horticulture down there. And when I actually graduated, I got a job at a hydroponic tomato place, and that was over in Florence. It was called Vermont Hydroponic. Mm-hmm. And I really liked my job over there, managed the greenhouse, and it was a large hydroponic operation that I was growing tomatoes, which has a lot of similarities to cannabis in a lot of ways. And I was able to just gather a bunch of great personal hands-on knowledge. And then about 3 years into working there, I kind of started to experiment with some other herbal products. I was making some mushroom tinctures, and I was making some other types of tinctures and selling them at the farmer's market. And I started to see how many people that those tinctures were helping. And I actually got the opportunity through a weird set of synchronicities to open up a storefront in Virgins. And from that, I needed to kind of fill the storefront with some stuff. So CBD was just starting to take off. So I had a couple CBD products that I was selling. I started to see, much like the mushroom products I was selling, how much CBD was helping with so many different problems. And I also had a deep passion for cannabis, had a lot of knowledge about growing in the cannabis plant in general, about the industry. I, through the farmers market, was lucky enough to make some really great connections with some other entrepreneurs and farmers. This is the Middlebury Farmers Market. So I asked one of the organic farms, once I actually went, I think it was 2018 Hemp Fest. I went up there and I had the idea that I was going to grow, and I just wanted to get a little bit more of an idea on what the industry was like and what people were currently doing. And from there, I kind of was immediately just looking for some partners and some people to go in on this, because I knew from the beginning I wanted to make it as big and try to do as much as we can and help as many people as we can and get our brand out there. But I realized that I first of all, I didn't have the capital. I didn't have a farm. I didn't have the space to grow, and I really needed some help to make the vision come to fruition. So that's where my other business partners came in, and I got, again, really lucky with a set of circumstances that allowed me to partner with some people that were really perfect as far as being able to provide a lot of the things that I couldn't provide. They already had a successful kind of organic vegetable production going on. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of why I teamed up with them. I knew they already had some farming equipment and some organic land to grow on. So I didn't realize it was right in this most beautiful spot. It's right along the lake in Shoreham. And I've never really spent much time in Shoreham, but it really is a pretty magical place as far as the climate goes. We're like always getting a nice little breeze off the lake. We have a beautiful view over the Adirondacks, and it's a gorgeous place to grow. Not to mention, not only have my business partners have kind of helped us out on this venture, but we had a lot of neighbors who have let us use their land, let us use their their facilities to dry in, and really the whole community has kind of come together to help make Vermont Pure CBD what it is today.
Which is amazing when we talk about stigmas and just the thought mentalities of communities within the states that we live in, right? I mean, you guys have had nothing but amazing support, correct?
Yeah, and I think that marijuana in the medical marijuana community did a good job kind of destigmatizing the plant a little bit, but it still has a lot of kind of pushback when it comes to certain populations and certain people. But with CBD, I have yet to hear a single argument that makes sense to be against it. And I think that that's where we really have the benefit, is we just caught this wave at this time where people were gaining a lot of awareness. The cannabis plant was starting to be destigmatized. And again, we just have all the information and knowledge on our side as far as how can you be against something that's helping so many people with so many different problems.
Right, especially when on a federal level, when we sit here and look at this and go, what's going on? But I mean, CBD is acceptable now. It's the THC, the other cannabis part that we were having issues with. Now, you guys are making an array of products too, right? It's not like you're just growing the plant, right?
Yeah, we do everything. That's the thing that we really pride ourselves on. And one of the things that I think makes our company really unique is I don't think most people, I know that your audience is probably much more educated than the average person out there, but most people think that hemp is hemp, and they don't realize that it's just like marijuana. There's so many different grades and qualities out there, and the higher the quality of the plant material you're starting with, I think that that is one of the limiting factors with how good of a product you can produce. And if you really produce a super high quality product, I think the other thing that's really making our company unique is that we're not just focused on CBD content. We're making a full spectrum product. And I'm as convinced now as ever that it's not just the CBD that is helping people. It is all the other parts of the plant and that whole entourage effect, and specifically the terpenes. The terpenes are so volatile, and people have gotten crazy with their grows, and they're growing like hundreds of acres of plant material. And the only freaking way to dry that stuff is with combines or insane space and equipment, and usually a lot of heat, a lot of grinding, a lot of just not taking care of the plant in the way that we do. We really think that by slow drying the plant under low temperatures, that's what retains all those terpenes. Those terpenes are really volatile. CBD, not so much. Like, you can heat CBD up to a really high temperature and you won't destroy it at all, really. So if you're growing for isolate production, I can see why combining can be attractive, and the economy of scale of growing hundreds of acres seems great. But as far as producing a boutique product that is really as high quality as possible, I don't think it can really be done on a super large scale. And I definitely don't think it can be done with heat during the drying process. And I don't believe in using combines either. I think hand harvesting the stuff and treating it much like cannabis as far as the drying, I don't think it's as picky, because we're not really in the smokable flower market. We've entertained it, and we did a little bit of that, and we might do that this next year. But as far as what we're trying to do is we're really trying to just retain as much of those terpenes and as much of the true representation of the plant that we can, which is another reason why we kind of chose alcohol extraction. Like, I know CO2 and other extraction methods are great, especially when you're talking about dabbing and that type of stuff, when you want the most flavorful concentrate that gets you the most medicated, and you just don't want any chlorophyll or any of the other bullshit in there that's going to get your nail all dirty and that type of shit. But again, this is a completely different thing, and it's a different product. And I don't think that we should be comparing those types of extraction methods when we're talking about completely different kind of end results that we're trying to achieve.
I think it's really what you just said there. It's the end result that you're looking for is what really highlights what extraction process works best. I mean, there's a lot of different options out there that people are well aware of. For you guys, what have you guys seen that's one of your best sellers? I mean, you guys are pretty much everywhere now. Everywhere I go, I'm seeing the bottles. I mean, I have product. I've tried it. It's great product. You guys do a lot of different variances. What do you see as your number one selling or most wanted product right now?
Man, it changes all the time. And like you said, it's because we're in so many different places that it really depends on the place that we're in. Like, obviously, if we're in a pet store, the pet products are going to sell a little bit better than the vape carts and that type of thing. But if you're in the smoke shop, sometimes the vape carts are the best. And that's what I'm so pumped about CBD about, honestly, is that it's got so much versatility. And I feel like just such a wide range of the population experiences benefits from it, that I've been around the whole cannabis world for a while, and I know that THC doesn't get along with everybody, and it's not, doesn't seem like everybody benefits from using THC, or at least they think that they get angry. I don't know. It's just, it seems like as far as the demographic that CBD is able to hit, it's much wider. It's young people all the way to old, and it's not just smoking it. It's not just using the internal tinctures and capsules and things like that. The topical products are honestly some of my favorite. If I ever get any type of injury, or if I ever feel any type of inflammation in my body, those things are amazing at battling that type of stuff. And I think that, I don't know, I haven't messed around with enough THC topicals to really voice my opinion on those. But as far as battling inflammation and helping people manage stress, because sometimes THC tends to give people anxiety and stress with certain people, but CBD tends to just get along with a lot larger percentage of the population. And almost everybody I know that's tried it experiences some type of benefit from using it.
Yeah. Now, I mean, these are great questions. This is one that we always ask. You know, obviously, your town, your community supports you guys in the business sense, and you know, you guys are doing the right things. You're still supporting a farm system, which is what's great to see. Still, you know what I mean? It's always tough to see farms change over and put everything they have into a CBD or a hemp grow. And then, like, we've seen a lot of issues in the state, so we know how hard of a struggle it is. I guess, how hard of a struggle has it been? Because, I mean, you mentioned it before. We talked about the commercial grows, how they dry, how they cut corners to save a little bit of money because it's a commercial operation, right? But now what people don't realize is the craftier you get, the smaller your grows are, the harder it is to make a profit, especially when you're doing things pretty much in-house, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's getting harder every day. I feel like we're really blessed to have started this journey in 2018 and not 2019, because man, what a difference a year makes. Not to mention the fact that if we're trying to launch a fucking product line right now, it's insane, man. I'm mostly trying to focus on sales, and it's the equivalent of pretty much banging my head against a brick wall every day for the last months.
I mean, that's interesting. That's what's interesting now. You nailed on the head. There's COVID-19, and now we have, you know,
the
these
crowded
riots,
space too.
You know,
there's a lot of brands coming in. You know, there's a new brand every single day, and they're all saying that they got the best and the highest quality. And there's so much misinformation. There's so much uneducatedness when it comes to the consumer and the buyers out there. And really, I can speak from a really passionate place, because I really feel like I got into this for really good and with really good intentions and for the right reasons. I really didn't just see money and try to create a CBD business because I thought it was going to be really profitable. I really saw how many people it was helping. And that was kind of my whole goal. My store was like, I just want to like have healing products that are helping people. And then when I saw the opportunity that Vermont allowed when it comes to a $25 license, like, it was really a perfect storm as far as the CBD demand, the licenses being so cheap, and everybody just kind of jumping in with no knowledge. Like, there was uneducated growers, uneducated processors, uneducated consumers, just lack of education across the board, which that cost a lot of people a lot of money. And unfortunately, a lot of people kind of got into this with some pipe dreams and expecting to get rich quick. And that's not how this works. Like, it's been a true grind for our company in a lot of ways. We started out at the farmers market in Middlebury selling our products in 2018. And it's not like we had a bunch of money behind us. We've literally been bootstrapping it from the beginning, and every little dollar we make, we've been putting back into the company. I've been going around to Aldi's stores. I've got my friends going around to these stores in the beginning. We finally now have some professional reps that we're working with. But for the start, it was like literally just go out there and try to talk from a passionate place and try to get my products on the shelf anywhere I could. And it's been in a real organic growth that's took a little bit to get going, but it's pretty awesome once the momentum's going, and we've been able to grow and expand as quick as we have the last couple of years.
Now, what's the biggest thing you've seen as far as a stigma difference? I mean, obviously, when we first legalized it, it felt like a different world than it feels now. Like you said, it's been a year now, a little, a year and a half, almost two, right? We're coming up on 2 years, geez. And what a difference, right? I mean, like you said, the first year it was just a hailstorm of everybody's interest, and right now it's kind of like it's quiet, right? Do you think it has anything to do with legalization, or is it just, everybody's kind of learning about the product? Is it, like you
Yeah, I
said,
think
is
a
it
lot of
saturation?
I think, yeah, it got real saturated. Like, there's a big difference between growing this plant and trying to sell it for biomass or even for flour. Like, it seems like the flower market's staying pretty steady if you got good flour. But the thing is, try to grow over a couple acres of flowers and try to dry that in a proper way that people want to like actually smoke. There's just you can only go so big on smokable flower unless you got warehouses and warehouses of hanging space. So I don't know. I think that like the industry is evolving, and I think this happens in almost every market where there's huge opportunity and there's a bunch of people that get into it. And there was a lot of people who got into this they don't want to, they're just farmers. They just want to grow a plant and they won't expect to get paid like they do their corn and their soybeans at the end of the year. And this market is not established to that point yet. And it's not a commodity like that. And you really got to create your own market. Like, if you don't know how to grow, you don't know how to extract, if you don't know the knowledge of the cannabis plant and have a passion with it, if you don't know how to market, if you don't know how to sell, if you don't know all the legal backings that you need to have. Like, one of our business partners is a lawyer who's literally just been like making sure we're doing everything legit and we're not doing anything illegal throughout the whole process, which is really useful to have because I have no legal background. And like, if I was the one in control of all that type of stuff, it would have been a little bit more Wild West, I feel like. So it's good to have some people on your team that keep your legal processes in line and make sure that all your accounting and everything that you're doing it's a legitimate business. And in order to have a legitimate business, you need to know a lot and you need to be able to like spend some time building it and have all the pieces in place to make it run, which honestly most people don't have. It's one thing to have a farm, it's one thing to have space, but it's a whole nother to have knowledge and the know-how, and also have a team that's willing to put in 80 hours a week for 2 years and not get paid. And there's not too many people that are willing to do that.
I think that you hit the nail on the head there, right? So there's a couple different generations here now, right? When we have family farms and growers, like we have our generation, we have our parents' generation, right? It's a very different world of business than till now. Like you said, like, we all wish we could be in an agricultural market and treat it like corn, right? It would really benefit our farmers, right? It'd benefit everybody in the business, right? But we can't. So now it's overtaxed, it's over everything, really, if you think about it. CBD is, at least it's less tax, but it's the business part that people don't understand. It's, how'd you get there? You know what I mean? It's the teamwork part. A lot of times, like you said, you see farms throwing seeds in the ground, hoping that somebody's going to walk on their property and buy their hemp. You know what I mean? A lot of people are doing it without a plan, and a lot of people don't understand how these new markets work. You were talking about doing sales earlier, and you're kind of like, oh man, I see your face, and then now you have COVID-19. So, I mean, getting back to that, what's been the biggest struggle for COVID-19 for you? I mean, we've seen a lot of these companies. I mean, it seems like you're either getting hit really hard or your sales are going great. You know what I mean? It seems like there's no in between right now. Some of these companies seem to be really hurt, and some of these companies are going, man, I'm having the best of my life because people are home buying stuff off the internet now, Have you seen a big effect?
Yeah, I mean, every business has been affected at this point, but I do think that we've been really lucky to diversify our kind of marketing strategies. We're not just a wholesale retail brand. We're not just an online brand. We've really tried to push both platforms, and they've kind of both organically grown at very similar rates. So although unfortunately a lot of our stores are independently owned locations that are mom and pop stores, and they're not big businesses. Hang on one second, I got some dogs visiting. Hey guys, go play.
Right.
All right. So my neighbor has some dogs that'll come over and come bark when they want to come play with my dog. And I guess it's playtime. I didn't let them know that I had a radio show this afternoon.
That's all right. It's this new world of Zoom, man. Like, we can do it from anywhere. And who knows who we have come up, and how we do this. Any guests are welcome. If they want to
I got some furry friends here. But yeah, COVID has been crazy, and it's been a really kind of gnarly experience for our company to go through. It really was. We were unsure how exactly it was going to affect us. We were really lucky that although we lost a shitload in wholesale orders, our online orders seemed to pick up a little bit, and that helped even out things. So we didn't really experience an insane hit, but where we have experienced a big kind of drop off is adding new accounts, trying to get stores to take on our products right now. People are just not in expanding times, and people are not thinking of ways to grow and expand. They're just trying to keep the lights on and really kind of freaking out about next week's payroll. And it's totally understandable. And I think that it's a very difficult time to get new accounts and to sell product to new locations. First of all, because the best way that I have found to sell product is face to face. Like, I've been trying this LinkedIn shit and like emailing hundreds of companies and people and all these stores that I think would be a good fit for our products, or calling them. But there's something about the face-to-face interaction. Like, even I'm sure you've experienced it with your radio show. I don't know if you ever did it in person, but there's some type of energy loss when you are communicating over these screens and devices. And I can't get my passion and my message across nearly as well when I'm talking over these types of devices, and I'm doing it over email. And I think it's a combination of a bunch of things that are making it hard to sell right now. But the fact that you can't even really go out and go on the road and start going door to door and selling this stuff, which is that's how I really like to sell it. That's been really difficult, and trying to modify and switch over to a digital approach. It's been hard, because I feel like I'm kind of relearning how to sell when I've kind of figured it out. And my whole method got thrown out the window.
Right. Well, I mean, it's funny you mention that, because I mean, times do change, and it's interesting how times change. But people seem to forget. I mean, I feel the same way as you. A good handshake and a smile, a laugh goes a long way over than different on the phone. When we do the radio show, oh man, being in studio, there's nothing like it. You know what I mean? It would be nothing like sitting down with you guys and hanging out with you guys and having the conversations we do, because, you know, for us, we do the couch talk kind of situation. You know what I mean? We don't come in with a script. We're very organic. We want people to feel very comfortable in what they're talking about, because I mean, for us, there's a lot of people that tune in. We're hoping to inspire people. You know what I mean? So when we talk to somebody like you, you know what I mean? You know, you're a young man who started a great company, like you said, you know, and what we hear a lot about with success is, you know, being in the right place, being at the right time, being lucky enough to have the surroundings that you were able to surround yourself with, and jumping on that train when it was there to be jumped on, you know, which I think it happens for a lot of people, but a lot of people decide, "No, I'm not going to pull that trigger," and then they regret it, you know. But man, I mean, like I said, I see it everywhere. It's probably one of the more successful Vermont companies as far as product that I've seen. Literally every event I go into, they're almost in every store I see. Everybody knows the product very well. Now when you're growing your product, how's your farm set up? Like, are you growing in soil? Do you guys do outdoors? Is it greenhouse? Is it a combination of both? Are you guys able to go year round? Like, you know, because you guys are in control of your own product, right?
Yeah, and we mainly focused on just outdoor production, because it's by far the most economical. Unless you're going into the trim flower market, you're really not getting that higher of percentages of CBD or terpene content growing inside. You get a better looking flower for sure, but as far as like actual quantities, and I honestly think that again, it's all about what you're going for as far as your end product. If you're trying to make the most beautiful looking bag of cannabis that you are trying to create, then indoor is the way to go a lot of times. But I think there's something special about the sun and organic growing in general in soil connected to the earth. And I think that some of the flavor profiles and some of the kind of genetic expressions that get created in these plants, when you take a plant and you grow it inside versus in a greenhouse versus outside, you get 3 different looking plants, even when you're growing the same exact phenotype. And I think that that's pretty fascinating. And I think that obviously the boutique market has chosen that greenhouse flower and indoor flower is the way to go if you're looking for smokables and stuff that looks really pretty, because there's something about those types of environments. I think it's the spectrum of light mainly that really encourages them to just put out a really beautiful flower structure that for some reason the cannabis community has grown to appreciate much more than outdoor. Even though I've had some outdoor that is like as sticky and stinky and flavorful as any kind of indoor, it just doesn't have that super boutique look that you can get from indoor flower or greenhouse. But I'd be curious to try to get into the flower market, because I think that is one of the things I'm passionate about. Is it sucks when we have these really, really beautiful flowers and we're turning it all into the same dark looking oil that it's great, and I know that it's better than using crap material and stuff like that, but I kind of wish we could showcase our flowers a little bit more, because they are the most beautiful part of the plant. And they are pretty awesome to like focus on growing the best ones that you can and sharing that with the world.
Right.
Yeah. No, I hear that. But I mean, you guys definitely took the approach you guys took was is a good approach, man. I mean, a lot of people just focus on the flower. And if it doesn't succeed, then what do? You know what I mean? If you
and I think we've seen it with the THC market has been oversaturated in Oregon, like many places. Yeah. Like this last couple of years, I've been pretty shocked at the THC prices and how high they've been staying. But I think a lot of that had to do with like California fires. I know that they were like cracking down on illegal grows. I know there were some people in Oregon that were fed up with the $100 pounds, and they were just like, I'm not going to grow for $100 pound. Like it's just, I can't.
That happened too. Yeah.
So I think it's the same thing with CBD. Honestly, I'm kind of curious to see how this market self-regulates, because we had this boom this last year where there was way too many people growing and producing that didn't know how to market and sell and create products. And they just had all this biomass and flower available that they couldn't get rid of. But now there's so many people. Like, I know we're growing a lot less, and I know a lot of farms that are growing a lot less, and a lot of farms that aren't even growing this year. So I'm kind of curious, like if the demand for CBD doubles again, and all of a sudden we have half the supply or a quarter of the supply, that price could go back up again. Like it's such a supply and demand thing. But at the same time, where the cannabis growers are just damn good at outgrowing the fucking demand.
Right.
We're efficient, man. It took like 3 years before people figured out how to grow hundreds of acres of this shit with combines and dry it all. And like, it's just like the innovation and the freaking like exponential growth and ability to produce CBD at a cheap price. It is astounding what people have done in the last 3 years in this industry.
Oh, wow. That.
Well, I mean, and that's it. I mean, that's my question to a lot of this, to people like you guys, you know what I mean, where you're just growing CBD, you're making your own products. We know that the price of CBD is nowhere near what the price of THC goes for, right? Like they're not even on the same level. Oh. How hard is it to stay successful? You know what I mean? And we talked about, like what you said, you brought up a lot of common failures within the business, where people just they jump in to grow. They're growers. They hope it all falls together. It never does. Now they're on biomass. Now they're giving it away. Now they're financially hurting because they're sitting on all this. They invested in all this, and then now they have to give it away and take a loss on it, hoping that it was going to be a substantial market. We're seeing this all over the country, right? Probably more than not, I believe. I mean, I've seen cities and states that have lost money last year in the hemp industry, where you're like, how does a state lose money in the hemp industry?
Well, you charge $25 a license.
Right. Well, a lot of it, I mean, a lot of it's to gamble with weather, because, you know, you're talking about being outdoors, right? I think it was Arkansas that had the loss. They lost millions and millions of dollars of revenue, but 90% of it was due to a huge flood that the state had. You know what I mean? So we have these crazy gambles. And when you talk about price and demand, Brandon would talk to you about this all day long, about even like last year when the market self-regulated, right? Because a lot of people don't realize that Colorado purposely self-regulated right in the time of the drought, right in the time of everybody going, I'm not going to sell that $100 pound. And a lot of people in the industry were like, they gave up to it. I know great growers that just shut down and were like, I refuse to do this. You know what I mean? Because it's not worth it to them to take that hit. And a lot of it, there's a cost to it, right? I mean, people, I mean, you're growing a plant, but you know, it's not something that is, you don't care for, your nurture, you don't put money into. There's finances that need to be had, you know. And then when
it costs a lot to produce.
even more. Right. And then when you go into processing, they get you, right? And then when you go into testing, they get you. So it's a lot.
The uneducated people are getting taken advantage of left and right. And it starts with a lot of people there was a huge seed scramble last year. I don't know if you remember that, but because there was such a freaking demand of growers that there just wasn't enough seed to supply all the people that wanted to grow last year. So there was a lot of people. I know people that ended up with fucking seeds that they ended up being at like 2-3% total CBD content. Like literally that's not even CBD hemp. Like that's like grain and fiber hemp, you know, like that. It's just such shit genetics that people were selling as whatever. And we actually got burned the very first year before we weren't able to get our seeds from Oregon CBD, which we were able to source from last year. And luckily we knew what we wanted to do way before the whole seed boom where everybody procrastinated to the spring and they couldn't get seed. We bought it in the winter time and we had plenty of seed for last year. So we didn't have any like seed scramble issues. But the first year we got burned by I'll even put this company on blast, Blue Forest Farms. They were horrible. I think they're still selling seeds, and they sold this stuff that was supposed to be feminized and supposed to be like 20% CBD content or whatever they advertised. And it ended up being it was the most variable crop ever. There was plants that were big, plants that were small. There was males all over the place. It was all regular seed. It looked like somebody just pollen chucked some seed, and we got sold it as like legit feminized. We paid $1 a seed for it. Luckily, we were able to get like most of our money back from them. But at the same time, getting your money back for your seed after you spend a whole year growing and spend all the money and time with the soil and nutrients and all, you know how many freaking males I was pulling to just end up with all these seeds? It's just like you can't quantify the loss of what bad genetics will do. Those things are like that and I think a lot of people had horrible genetics this last year, but even people with good genetics who had really good material, still, it's an oversaturated market. And unless you are growing at an insane scale with insane kind of like efficiency, that's the only way you could even break even this year, unless you were going straight to products. Because biomass, and even if you were processing your own oil, like I know there's a lot of labs who won't even do any splits now because the price of CBD for a kilo of concentrates like less than $1,000. I was hearing like $500 a kilo for freaking isolate. Like it is ridiculous. How the heck can you produce a kilo of isolate for $500 unless you're like,
I mean, to us, we know what that price means, but 3 years ago, 2 years ago, what was that kilo worth, right? And then that same kilo is
1 year ago
such a higher quality. When we saw that vape cartridge issue hit, we saw a slew of really poorly extracted distillates, right? We saw the vitamin E acetates being involved in a lot of these issues to help thin out this really shitty products that are hitting the market. And we've seen, $12,000 kilos upwards of the same kilo, same people now selling for what, $6,000-$7,000? Like the price dropped. I mean, just in CBD, what was CBD alone? Grant?
Yeah, I mean, a kilo of isolate was going for, like you said, $6-7 and then like a kilo of like the crude was even going for like 25 to 5. So it's just it literally is 10 times cheaper, and people can like absorb a market that goes down. If it cuts in half, even that's drastic. But we literally saw 90% decrease in prices, maybe even more. And like that's even if you could sell it. And most people are just to the point where they're like, well, I can't. They're so attached to this crop. You know how it is when you grow a plant and you like get attached to that thing for 6 months, and then you harvest it, and you know how much time you spent on it, and you know how much money you spent on that, and somebody comes and offers you a fraction of that, you'd be like, no, I'd rather burn it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people have that attitude as well. I mean, well, it makes sense though, man. Like you nail it on the head. It's kind of like anything, and that takes place in anything that you do in any company. If you build something and you let it grow and you've seen it grow, it's hard for you to it's almost insulting at a point. Unfortunately, it's the market controls that aspect, and it's out of your hands, which is the other harder part about the being in the business that you're in. You know what I mean? And especially in an agricultural market, things can swing drastically one way or the other, depending on, like you said, fires, droughts, anything that happens out west can greatly affect anything that happens here out east. You know what I mean? And then it's a saturation. I think a lot of people got scared. You nailed something on the head that I was hoping to jump in on was, the last few years, even here in Vermont, we've seen either people get seeds that, like you said, full of males, right? Or genetics that were hot. They weren't even CBD. They were just straight up like 25% THC and like 2% CBD and just your normal run of the mill.
Whoops.
White Widow. I don't know how that happened, So I mean, and there's a lot of,
Whoops.
We love the CBD industry, right? But we've seen a lot of issues where it's like, here in Vermont, we preach the craft quality, know your grower, talk to local places. But like a lot of these people are buying off Amazon. They're buying a product that doesn't work. You know what I mean? They're buying a product at a gas station. Now, here in Vermont, a lot of our gas stations actually have really great lineups. I believe I've seen your products in some of these gas stations, right? I had a friend of mine go to Tennessee last week, right? She came back and she was talking about how she walked into your local gas station and they had hemp flower for sale. She bought an eighth of flower for like, I don't know, $15, $12, she said. And it was in a bag package, beautiful. Like we haven't quite seen that here in Vermont yet. And I don't think I've seen it in Mass or anywhere New England based yet, but I mean, that's coming, you know what I mean? But
I've been seeing it. It's popping up, man. There's definitely people selling flower. That's the thing, unregulation. You're just going to have a lot of shitty products out there. You're going to have everybody selling everything. And I don't really like blanket statements. And I think overall that is a pretty safe kind of statement to make is, don't buy your CBD from a gas station, because most of them are selling just shit products that are produced in China or produced wherever, and they're just not high quality CBD. And that honestly, that frustrates me more than anything. And I don't want this industry to be over regulated to the point where we have the feds and the state showing up at our facility every single day to check on us and all types of cameras that are like, I don't know. I think that there's a balance there somewhere. I do think that we need some type of regulation, because I don't think it's right that anybody can throw anything on a bottle of CBD and just start selling it anywhere, because it fucks the whole industry, because there's so many people, like you said, there's issues with actual contaminants when it comes to like the vape cart stuff and like other issues I'm sure that people have been experiencing from bad products or things that were just not produced in a high quality way. But also it sucks when people go out and spend $50 on a bottle of CBD because they heard from their friend that it really worked and helped them with sleep, and they go and buy a shitty product that doesn't do anything for them. Right. And then they just write CBD off, sometimes for the rest of their life, where they're just like, well, I spent $50 on a bottle of CBD. It was a waste of money. It did nothing for me. And it's just like, man, I guarantee you, if you spent that $50 on our products, you would not be saying that shit.
Right.
But it's just like, there's too many bad products out there that are giving CBD in general a bad name, or just not allowing people to experience the true benefits of CBD. And then when you get into the whole, like, is it isolate or is it full spectrum? Like, you wouldn't believe how many people are everyday CBD users that I talk to, and I ask them, what brand do you use and how many milligrams are you taking? And they can't answer either of those questions. They have no idea what brand. They're, I got to go look at the bottle and stuff. And then usually they'll tell me like the number of milligrams on the bottle, and I'll have to ask them how many ounces. It's just, there's just such a lack of education when it comes to people, and even the people that consider themselves daily users and somewhat educated. And then when you talk about the person who knows nothing about the hemp or CBD and have literally been like scared of cannabis their whole life, those people are like, it takes so much education to get these people up to speed and let them know that, hey, one CBD product is not equal to another CBD product, even if they're equal milligrams, if they were accurately labeled and lab tested products that were equal 10 milligrams of CBD with one brand and 10 milligrams of CBD with another brand. If it was an isolate product, or even if it was two full spectrum products, going back to like the conversation we're talking about with drying, Like, I think it's crap that people can have anything that has any amount of THC in it and call it a full spectrum product. And like, that's kind of what full spectrum has come to mean, is it has THC in it, you know? And I don't think that that's a way of distinguishing a full spectrum product. Like, I think that what we need is almost another category of products where it's, I want like another stamp that we can put on our product called like true full spectrum. And I think in order to be like a true full spectrum product, I think you should have to prove that your plant material that you're extracting is above, like, let's say 15% CBD content. So you know you're starting with high quality plant material. You slow dried that plant material to the point where you still retain, let's say, 1.5% terpene content.
Okay.
And just have markers that people need to hit in order to get to that, like, that stamp of true full spectrum. And then, like, I think alcohol extraction, it does produce a more full spectrum product than CO2. It captures a wider representation of the plant. And I don't think you should be able to call shitty genetic material that was sped dry and extracted with CO2 the same thing as, oh, that's a full spectrum product, when somebody grew it in a craft way and treated it with absolute care throughout the whole process and produced a really much higher quality product. But we almost needed a new name to produce, like, and we started, oh, it's artisan CBD, but it's like, what the, people can call anything artisan these days, and it just doesn't, it's like lost its meaning.
Unfortunately, I mean, no, you actually hit the nail on the head. I mean, you literally preach what we preach all the time. Like, we want to see an agricultural system that has regulations to it, where, again, you got to meet certain bars to get certain levels. I mean, that's what the FDA is supposed to be doing with their markings and stampings and their regulations. And like with meat, there's multiple different regulations within the FDA that they regulate meat with, right? So, you know, same with hemp or flower. I totally agree. To me, that there should be multiple regulations, and there should be co-ops available for distribution networks, whether it's and mainly for the health market. You know what I mean? For the craft cannabis growers that actually take their time and grow a great product, that understand their plant, that grow clean, that can sell to a distribution network that deals with dispensaries, the medical side. That way, because, you know, the one thing what's great about CBD is it's available everywhere, right? And we have patients that can go into a store and buy your product, right? But like, even with the THC, they can't quite do that yet, right? So transparency is one of our biggest things that we support. And you're really hitting the nail on the head for what we laugh about a lot of times. It's, you know, the product's not real. And, you know, I'm a chef by nature, so to me, it's like, you always have one chance to make that first impression. Like, you can go out to a restaurant, right, have the best service, the best experience, and have one little issue with the meal, and then it's the worst thing ever, right? Or you go out to the restaurant and it's gonna be the best thing ever. But what the problem is about the world these days is no one talks about the best stuff. They only care about the worst stuff. And so if you have a bad product, it spreads quickly, right? But people give up hope, man. I can't tell you how many times somebody's come to me and said the same thing you said. I spent $92 on this bottle the other day. This lady talked me into it, and I don't feel a thing, Joe. And then they'll bring it over, and it's like, 60 milligrams in this big bottle. And you're like, well, this isn't going to do much unless you're going to drink half the bottle. You know what I mean? Which at that point you don't want to do, because there's 2 days worth of dosages there, right? So I mean, you nailed it right in the head. There's a lot of misinformation, but the problem is regulation, and the other problem is if you're trying to educate somebody from a medical standpoint, we don't have a medical system that has a standpoint yet. You know what I mean? So it's like we don't have a lot of testing or the standpoint stuff. So what we're relying on is our labs to test stuff faithfully, right? Which is also another issue. But this happens in every market, man. Just look at the whole organic stamping. You want to talk about stamping? I worked in the culinary industry, and the organic stamping covers like 38 different, like.
Oh yeah, man. There's so much fuckery in the goddamn organic. the freaking produce market in general, man. That's where I came from. That was my original job out of college, and my company, Vermont Hydroponic. Like, it's all marketing, man. It's like I grew tomatoes in Vermont, and I loved my job there. But those guys, in the safe sense, I think, changed their name a little bit. But it was so deceptive what they were doing. They had Vermont Hydroponic as their brand, and that was like, so if you take your In the Weeds logo, Vermont Hydroponic was in the Weeds font, like that big of a font. And then in tiny little font, it says product of USA and Canada. So my tomatoes would go to a warehouse and then they would get co-packed with these Canadian tomatoes, and they would go out to these grocery stores with this nice little Vermont hydroponic label on it, and everybody would see, oh, Vermont. And it's just like they thought it was from Vermont, rightfully so. Like, it's the assumption I would have made. And like, it's amazing how I walk through grocery stores nowadays and just can kind of like see the little like bullshit that people are pulling. And it's not even just with produce and grocery stores. It's like everything.
Oh, yep.
I was just talking to some guy yesterday about how like they have, he owns an appliance store, and we were talking about how like China's just like already owns the economy and they're producing everything. And I was like, so like, where's all your appliances going from? And he's like, well, they come from China, but they say assembled in the United States. You know, they just send over all the pieces and like put them together here. And he's like, it's the assembly that we have the problems with anyways.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, automobiles, we see a lot. I mean, it's the way of doing it now. I mean, with the new world and trade tariffs, right? The automotive manufacturers have been doing that for years. It's like you can buy a Honda Pilot that's made in Kentucky, but it was assembled in Kentucky, and everything was shipped here from everywhere else. You know what I mean? Some very few cars will make the whole thing here. No, but the deception goes deep, man, and it sucks too. Because I mean, you know, as a chef too, I've encountered a lot of it in those sales strategies. And like, I mean, everything down to wine, dude, and how they label wine is how they grade it, where it's from.
I've heard the same thing with olive oil.
Yeah, dude.
Olive oil, they cut olive oil with cheap oils and stuff like that.
Right.
Like, is it just no, it's a dirty industry because it's just there's too much money in it, and every time you get millions of dollars, and that's what I think happened with CBD. Like, I even watched it start as like this really pure thing where people were really helping people out. It seemed like the first year I grew compared to last year, and the way the markets have gone. And I think it's just like we had an abundance kind of thing in the beginning, and now we're dealing with a little bit of famine thinking. And there is a little bit of that going on for real, where people literally can't sell their product, and people are really kind of, they're worried about the whole industry in general. And I think that creates a lot of apprehension, but it also creates a lot of, there's so much money and there's so much opportunity and there's so little regulation that it's prime like waters for these scammers and just bad players to come in and take advantage of people, because it's just too big of an opportunity and a little bit of a perfect storm with all three of those factors.
Well, we see a flood of, I mean, we saw it a few years ago, and we've talked about it on the show a lot. You know, like you said, originally this was a grassroots movement, right? It was originally a grassroots supported thing. It was nurses helping nurses.
It was the cannabis community, man.
Right now,
it was the stoner community, and like now it's big money and.
Well, it's an investment. People. Yes, that's what happened to it. I mean, we've seen it a lot at the last few of the trade shows we've been to. It's you know, these guys are just walking around and they'll openly tell you they know nothing about cannabis. You know, they're just here for that 3-year investment.
Man, all I know is by 2024, I'll be $250 billion industry. I gotta get in it.
Yes.
Yeah,
you know,
dude.
Like,
Loan sharks, man.
Here, even in Vermont, and you know, even with my interactions with a Vermont dispensary that's technically owned by a conglomerate, Myanthus, you know, even, you know, when we talk to people that are within the inner workings of that industry, it's an investment firm. They literally have no idea. Like, you couldn't ask him to spell cannabinoid. You know what I mean? They wouldn't know what it was.
I hate that shit, dude. I just think that's so wrong. I don't know. I feel like I know it happens to every industry, and it's kind of, you know, opportunities open up and the sharks come to feed. But it's sad, especially when there is a lot of pure people who are getting into it for the right reasons. And then these people come along and take advantage of them. And like, there is a lot of that going on. We've been approached by it so many times. There's some people that come up to us at a trade show. They see that we're like a young company who's doing some cool stuff, and they start asking, hey, do you guys need money and stuff like that? And it's just, it seems really enticing, especially when you got like no money in your bank account and 100 things you want to buy. But at the same time, we've been really strong about not selling out to anybody, especially any kind of outside source that is just there to provide money. Because I feel like I know people that have done that, and I'm really glad that we made the decision to not sell off a portion of our company or sell our soul to one of these people for X amount of dollars, because I feel like these people aren't they're not in it for the right reasons, and a lot of times they are just kind of like getting outrageous interest rates, and the money's really expensive, and they just know that that's the other thing that they see with the CBD industry is they see it's a booming industry with a shit ton of money, but they also see like we had this issue this last year, and luckily we've been able to kind of make it through with our current cash flow situation, but would have been a lot easier if we could have got a loan from a bank or somebody. Yeah. And we had a freaking failing apple orchard right next door to us who literally was in $500,000 in debt, and they've lost money the last 3 years, and there was no way they were going to like start to be profitable again. Maybe, I guess, this whole COVID thing, apparently all the whole vegetable markets have just gone booming, but it's interesting that they were able to still banks like, oh, you still want another couple $100,000 to go more into debt, and you're a failing business that has no chance to succeed pretty much. And meanwhile, we have this insanely like promising company with a lot better numbers on our books than those guys have, but at the same time we're a cannabis company, and it's definitely starting to change. But that was a huge issue this last year. No banks were able to loan to anybody, so these people with a lot of money saw that. They saw there was a bunch of desperate people who had a lot more knowledge, and they were just trying to find some young brains that they could give some money to, and it would make more than what they would get in their stock market portfolio. And it's just a big money game.
It's money. Unfortunately, turned into a green game is what we would call it, right? But like you said, it happens in every industry. I mean, let's look at the liquor industry for a minute here, or we'll talk about just beer, right? We got craft beer, we got corporate beer, we've got guys that are making the smallest little handcrafted stuff in their in their back room and selling to just local stores, but they don't have the stigma of anything to do that, right? It's almost easy for them to be able to afford to do that. It's just a matter of the equipment that you have to spend, right? It's not like in our state, like we're lucky here where you had $25 license fee, right? I mean, it's gone up, but when your first year is $25, like, hey, why would you not try to grow hemp? You know what I mean? What do you get to lose, really? Some of these other states, it's not quite the same thing. You know what I mean? A lot of these states, especially for THC dispensaries, it's millions of dollars. So even the plate, you know what I mean? And then you have to like have it going, and we talk to people in Mass that have been renting buildings for a year now waiting for licenses. They have to have a building, you know what I mean? So how much money are they wasting doing that? Now,
crazy.
Yeah, one of the questions I wanted to ask you though is like, now you're in Vermont, so you're Vermont Pure CBD. It's right on the label, right? How do you feel about what's going on with the legalization of THC? I mean, is that, and then if that happens, is that something you guys are going to go and venture into as well, or are you guys strictly going to stick on the CBD side? I mean, I know we have COVID, and without COVID, we would probably be in a better situation, hopefully, right now on the recreational side in the state. But being somebody that's been through, you've been here for a few years, you're self-built, right? You've seen a lot of the inner workings of, and we've seen each other everywhere, right? So I know you're in the knowledge of what's going on in the state, and you have a great opinion. How do you think the state should move forward with our recreation system? Should we follow S54? Should we blow it up and start over? What, as a businessman that you see a predominant business figure in the state of Vermont, want to see out of these proposals? I guess do we have a cannabis control council? Do we let them build everything? Like what how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I've been kind of back and forth on that a little bit. I originally, when I first saw it like announced, I was really excited that they were gonna pass a legal bill finally and start opening up a rec market and allowing people to sell this stuff like we should be. But at the same time, I saw the big backlash from everybody in the cannabis community for the most part, and there was very few people who were actually involved in that community who supported that bill, which raised a lot of flags. And I think that's for good reason, honestly. I want Vermont to not drag their feet with getting some type of regulatory system in place, but at the same time, I know how hard it is to kind of change things once they're established. So I think it's really important that we do get it as right as we can the first time around. And the fact that they're willing to, it's going back to the CBD thing. Like, I think the only reason our company has been able to do as well as we have is because we've been vertically integrated.
Mhm.
And that vertical integration allows us to compete and sell for a good price and keep our margins decent. And you can't do that unless you're vertically integrated. If you got to pay someone to process, you got to pay someone to package, and you got to pay a retail store. Like if we were just dependent on retail sales, like we have to sell way more retail or way more wholesale product, obviously, to make the same thing as we're making on the retail end of things, because we have 50% margins. Whatever we're selling to the store, they're getting 50%. And it's the way the retail game works. You got to kind of pay for the shelf space and to get your products out there. But I really don't like the fact that they're only going to allow, from what I understand, I don't know if things have changed. I really haven't been paying as much attention to it as I probably should. But I feel like they were the last bill that they were going to put through, that S54, was going to give the dispensaries the only ability to vertically integrate. And they were going to allow all these other small craft growers to operate, and they were going to allow other licenses for, I think, people to open up shops to sell product and all that, those types of things, which it's great. But at the same time, when you're giving, and I think there was also some provision in there that allowed the dispensaries to be the only one to sell for like 6 months. So I cannot support something that gives such a head start and such a golden ticket to specifically the people who have tarnished our medical community and made it the laughing stock of the medical community in America for the most part when it comes to medical cannabis. As far as how many years our medical program has been going and how far behind it is from any state that was even operating for close to the same amount of time, it's really a sad state of affairs when it comes to being a medical patient in Vermont and trying to access high quality medicine for a decent price. They have completely messed that up. And I think that they've had how many years to figure this out? How long have they been selling?
6 years now. Yes, they've had 6 years now to have their medical market open, right? So
there you go. 6 years to figure this shit out, man.
Yeah.
they're still taking advantage. And from what I understand, I don't want to really disparage other people, but I really just don't think Shane Lynn has the best intentions with this industry. And I think that guy's, from what I've understood, I know the grower who is so previously the guy who I took over for at my Vermont hydroponic job when I first got out of school was Chris Williams, really talented grower. And he was in the tomato world, and he went down and started working for this company called Bright Farms out of Pennsylvania. That didn't work out, but he ended up in Australia, and he has tons of amazing growing experience. Like the kids, as far as horticulture knowledge goes and managing things on a large scale, and also just his work ethic and who he is as a person, he was a huge inspiration to be around, because he just held such a high level of like standard when it came to like the tomato operation that I worked on under him. And I saw how much he grew from going to these other places, and he worked under these master growers who are managing literally like 60 acres of automated hydroponic tomato production under glass in Australia. And if you've ever seen some like these high-tech we're cute in the cannabis community. We think we're good growers and we think we know what we're talking about, but man, the real fucking agriculture knowledge, that shit's in the vegetable production, and those people have been figuring that shit out for a while. And large scale vegetable production that's done right is impressive to see. But this guy, he was doing that for a little while, and he ended up he ended up getting his girl pregnant in Australia while she came and visited. So he came back to Vermont, where he was originally from. So he ended up working for Champlain Valley Dispensary and becoming the head grower there pretty quickly once they realized that this kid was a freaking hard worker who knew a lot and maybe didn't have insane amounts of cannabis knowledge, but he was very, very intelligent and very hardworking and willing to work for nothing, which I hated. I feel like Shane just took advantage of him the whole time. From what I understood, I didn't stay in as good a contact with Chris, but every time I talked to him, I did not like the way that they were treating him. And also he was telling me, he's like, dude, we have like, I don't know how many patients they had. I can't quote like off the top of my head. It was a very low amount of patients that were like buying cannabis from them. And he was telling me that he was managing like these like 100 light operations and stuff like that. And he was hitting like 2-3 pounds of light on a lot of these. And their stockpile is insane. Like, I know how much their supply has been taking, and I don't know if there's been a bunch going out the back door or what's been happening with that. But I'm concerned that he's been stockpiling all of this shit for a while, paying for all these lobbyists. That's the other thing. I don't think that people should be allowed to have lobbyists. I think lobbyists shouldn't even exist as a job. And I think it's crap that people are able to pay for these pieces of paper to go through that favor you because you got some money that you can grease these whatever these freaking politicians are. And I think it's just like, it's crazy.
Can't grow the product.
Yeah, and it's just, like, I think that your product should speak for yourself and your brand and your transparency, and you shouldn't have to do this pay to play thing in order to like keep up. And I think he's been stockpiling shit tons of cannabis. A lot of it was probably shitty, and I know that he's gonna have a good hand on the cannabis. Like, he just has too much influence and too much power, and he's shown too much kind of already ability to abuse that power with his, not just the fact that he's willing to sell moldy cannabis to medical patients, but he's willing to treat his employees like shit. And he's also willing to grow on nice, like, Pete Green's freaking farm, throw 300 hemp plants out there. And you're telling me he didn't know those, like, and from what I understand, nothing happened to that. It's like this guy can just buy himself out of any situation and buy whatever fucking bill he wants put through that's good for him. And I just think it's, I don't know, maybe do you know anything more about that? Did he get into that?
Do we know about it?
Are we not allowed to talk about it?
Oh no, we would love to talk about it, actually.
I guess we're non-biased now that we're in this platform, but no, I mean, dude, you hit the nail on the head. There's been a lot of speculations, there's been a lot of talks, and I mean, so I can't disagree with anything you said. Not one bit or piece about it. I have lots of friends that have worked there too. I know Chris. I've talked to Chris. He's told me some scary things. I know friends of mine that have seen and been forced to process moldy weed. There has been multiple patients that have been affected by this, and it's noted. You know what I mean? I mean. I totally agree with everything you're saying, man. It just gives the whole industry a black eye, the way he responds and acts, and especially what we saw in the State House last year with the lobbyists and the money he spent, dude. The stupid money he spent to sustain the game. And you're like, if you were just going to be open to the idea of working with the system, like for me, my best proposal to the way the state looks right now is to create a like I said before, a craft style. Wholesale system co-op where your farm can get involved, my farm can get involved, Brandon's farm can get involved, the 3 farms down the street can get involved. And now, as long as you hit these marks, right, no different than like we have out west, right? Like, you want to get into this warehouse, you have to have tested product. It's got to meet the marks. It's got to meet this. It's got to meet that, and then boom, we'll help move your product, right? Now, what that does for me is it takes that power out of like the Shane Lynn's hands, the vertical integration. And I don't think vertical integration is a bad thing, especially for a company like yourselves. But vertical integration for a dispensary is fucking stupid. But the problem and where it makes it stupid is this, and this is the biggest thing is with vertical integration, you only get your plant count numbers per patient, which is dumb. So, for Vermont dispensaries, I have to say for what they're handcuffed with, I mean, prices, let's be real here. Like, these guys are paying how many millions of dollars for licenses? How many millions of dollars are they spending on the back end to stay in business? I mean, it's a big money game, right? So where does that trickle down to? The consumer, right? And then you got to put the tax on top of it that the state and everybody wants out of it. And then boom, now you have high priced cannabis, right? But now when you have a certain plant count, like you said, they're overgrown. We know they're overgrown, and we've heard stories of product walking out the back door consistently being written off to dispensaries that don't exist, right? Nobody follows a trail. There's no regulations. There's no oversight. There's nobody paying attention to anybody. And this all comes from inside hands, which sadly they all have no disclosure forms, and they all work, no more than 2 a room because they segregate everybody so nobody knows what's going on in the other room.
Much worse than that. Come on. They got video. We got photographic proof. They have
Right? I mean,
eyewitness statements.
We've even seen your THC grows outdoors on top of asphalt in parking lots that nobody seems to want to talk about. But we have all that information. There's 300 plants there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they consistently have illegal grows going on everywhere. But with the Pete's Green thing is what really gets me on that is, like you said, like it's power, money, politics in that situation. Somebody tipped him off to the DOJ coming in and
definitely
raiding them, dude. Like literally, they came in the night before, took all their plants gone, and the next morning they came in, and the only way you got busted is they found a leaf on the ground. If they didn't find that leaf, they would never known it was a hot hemp. They would not know much about it, and whether Pete knew about it or not, which God forbid we would like to think he didn't, and it was just a shitty deal. But you know what I mean? Like, what would happen if that was me or even you, Grant, in your situation where you own a hemp company? If you had 200, 300 plants on your property that were THC, you're in trouble, man. You know what I mean? You're not gonna walk away from that one very easily.
Did they ever find more than just the leaf? Did they go do some research on it and actually recover the cannabis?
They did find a little bit more than just a leaf, but they found enough to process it to find out how much THC was in it. But no, as far as I'm aware of, no, nobody ever found anything.
That's fucking crazy.
They just found a lab that they tested the leaf and it was like over 23% THC or something like that.
Yeah, 23% is what it tested.
Yeah, that's wild.
So I mean that's just shady business right there. You know what I mean? And we've tried to put them in a corner and talk to them about issues, and they won't talk to us.
No.
We've been
the opposite of transparency, from what I can tell. Like you said, that was when actually I told Chris he should go when he was trying to get him to sign a non-compete and make it so he couldn't work in the cannabis industry for 3 years or some shit and couldn't sit despair. It was just, I was like, dude, don't even sign that. But I think he ended up signing it, and it's just, I don't know. I wish I stayed in better touch with him because I really do love Chris.
I mean, I've talked to a lot of people. I mean, and I mean, this happens everywhere. I mean, it's not just one place. And I mean, again, I'll try not to use a name very much, but there's a lot of people that go to work, right? And they go to an industry, especially the cannabis industry. Like you said before, we all started this industry. I mean, I know myself personally, it's not about the money. It was about the healing and the shit that I've seen personally in front of my face, and the stories I've heard about how it helps people, and for me, for years, I told people how it helped me and my stomach and my issues that I had and the ailments I had, right? And no one ever wanted to believe me. I'm just a stoner, right?
Yeah.
I'm a stoner because of X, Y, B, C, and D. And I've been smoking a long time. Yeah, I get that. But for me, it really became, I got educated basically. You know what I mean? I had my thoughts and theories change, and I've seen little kids that are still alive today because of a plant. You know what I mean? And as a chef, it made sense because as a chef, I was a very holistic-minded chef where, gingers and turmerics and, rice and the way you make your food can have a detrimental effect on your health. And
let food be thy medicine.
Right. And then we talk about the gluten culture, right? So I'm 42 now, right? So I started being, as a chef when I was 16. So back then there was no real gluten issues, and we've seen the rise of gluten. And then as we learn more about processed foods and bleached flours and where we're getting these products, it's kind of no different than the CBD game, right? You can go buy a very high quality $12,000 a liter product, or you can go buy that $5,000 a liter product that's supposedly the same thing, but we all know it's nowhere near it. You, as somebody producing that doesn't have a conscience, is probably going to buy the $5,000 one to try to keep profits up or make some more money, right?
Yep.
The people that care about it are the people like you guys, where your concern is the vertical integration because you're that concerned about where the plant comes from, how it's grown. You know what I mean? Where we see that a lot with New England businesses, where it's like they, come here, see my flowers. They'll show you. They want to show you. They want to educate you. So it's just different with the mentalities. You guys, you have the corporate mentalities, but you're not a corporate derivative. You know what I mean? Like you said, you guys have grown. It's you've refused different businesses. What's next for Vermont Pure CBD? Are you guys looking at expansions, new things, just trying to hold on for dear life right now? I mean, dude, you're like me, man. You're constantly thinking and moving and shaking. So I know you haven't been sitting down in COVID going, I can't do anything. I know you better than that. So come on, let us know what's going on.
Yeah, I get a million ideas, and it's like a lot of it changes every single day. Like I have no short of thoughts and ideas. That's kind of what I've honestly, I wish that I had access to this form of the plant when I was younger. I think I was self-medicating in my early years, and I think I was doing it mainly for ADHD. Like there's just something about the plant that allows my brain to stop producing all those thoughts. And like THC is very tricky in that sense, where sometimes I feel like it kind of can make me a little more manic and make me think about things a little bit more and make my brain even sometimes like go a little bit more wild. And then sometimes on the tail end of the experience, it'll calm down and I'll settle more into a sedative state. But as far as like calming down those thoughts and allowing myself to like focus, I feel like CBD just does a lot better job at that. And I really wish it was available to kids as an alternative to these other crazy pharmaceuticals that they're giving them. And I think it would be a lot more effective and have a lot less side effects than if they were already on Adderall. Like I know several parents who have started to take their kids off of those pharmaceuticals that we know have all types of long-term detrimental side effects and starting to give them CBD, and it's not only more effective, but they're experiencing a whole different host of other benefits as well. Like I was an athlete growing up. I think I would have experienced a lot of benefits from probably incorporating that form of the plant and only having access to THC, and especially during the wild west days where it was like Mexican brickweed for the most part. And like then when I finally like at the end of my high school started getting some good cannabis, but it's not like I could choose what strain I wanted, you know, as whatever the hell was available.
Right.
So it's just
there now.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm fascinated by this plant and just the versatility of it. I've gotten into other like I said, I was into mushrooms and other types of healing herbs and products as well. I think there is some synergistic relationship with different types of herbs and different types of products. I'm really interested in kind of combining certain things together, but also just the plant in general. There's new genetics. Like we just started growing CBG this year, and I haven't messed around enough with that personally to give my kind of thoughts on it. But I know that a lot of people are experiencing all types of benefits from it, and it seems like it's affecting people in a very different way than CBD. And I think that where the plant is going to end up is where I think we're going to have all the cannabinoids unlocked eventually. I think we're going to have all the regulation to the point where we can breed for all these different combinations. And I think some of the most medicinal varieties out there, that's really why I'm kind of curious about your Bubba Kush brand, because I don't know much about it, but I really like the kind of concept about, I've always had the idea that I think we selectively bred this plant for one kind of cannabinoid, and either THC or CBD. And I haven't even smoked enough of the 1-to-1 varieties, but I know those are becoming really popular in the cannabis community. And I think that even more kind of full spectrum or beneficial could potentially be like that 5% CBN, 5% CBG, 5% THC, 5% CBD, really high terpene content, and like messing around with all the cannabinoids. We still don't even know all the cannabinoids that are in this plant. And there's all types of interesting conversions. Like my buddy just figured out a way to convert CBD to Delta 8 THC. So that is like, it's another cannabinoid that it's legal because it's not controlled, but it's just like, it's, I just want to experiment with a lot of these different things. I just like, I'm blown away by the versatility of this plant and how many different expressions it can create, and just the combinations of those, and how even when you have something that's 3 different strains that are all 20% THC with the same other even minor cannabinoid content, if the terpene profiles are different, that's affecting everybody differently. And I just think that you could spend many lives growing this plant and trying to unlock new healing potential that exists inside of it, and still never even scratch the surface of what the plant has to offer, because it's just too complicated and too versatile. And I think we've discovered cannabinoids and terpenes, but I think there's all types of shit in that plant that we haven't even begun to understand, and we don't really know why it works or what the true benefits and the true kind of power of this plant is.
I totally agree.
Well, now,
there's
you
a new
it.
one for, what is it, CBDV, I think it is, right? And now that, I believe, out here, it actually grows really well, okay? So maybe the CBG grows better out in the East Coast in Vermont, but, CBDN grows better somewhere else. Like, he's absolutely right. Once you have everything where it's like, you're going to find out where all the different strengths are, right? That's going to make a huge difference.
Well, now that people are more experimenting with the whole plant as well, I believe that this is where a lot of these new findings are happening, because a lot of these cannabinoids aren't necessarily prominent in the buds themselves, but they'll be in the roots. You know what I mean? They'll be into the stem structure, where wherever you're getting the product from is going to give you a different level of whatever cannabinoid that you're striving to get. Now, we all know, we talk about the entourage effect a lot. This is why, you talked about isolates earlier. You know what I mean? Like, the market was straight on isolates before because it was safe, and now everybody wants whole plant or a full spectrum. And like you said, they mislabel a lot of things. Like, when you have CO2 extractions, you're not necessarily technically a full spectrum, right? Now, when you're whole plant, that might be different, right? The thing, like you were nailing it earlier, where it's like, I think we're going to see a lot of these one-to-one plants come out, and that's going to be what we're going to call a full spectrum plant. Because when you really want to talk full spectrums, you really want to hit benchmarks on all the cannabinoids to be considered full spectrum. Otherwise, what are you? You know what I mean? If you're whole plant, then I guess it really goes on the strain. We talk about strain specifics a lot. So, the higher quality products that you see are strain specific. These blends are the offshoots of all these off products that they get the B grades or the C grade stuff that they're extracting. Or like you said, just, hemp that went bad, industrial hemp that they're just processing because it's cheap. I was asked the other day for some really good smokable flower because people are spraying it now and reselling it as sprayed hemp. There's a market for sprayed hemp now, and it's a transparent market, apparently. And I was like, are you kidding me? Because these guys are looking for some really high-grade flower from Vermont, some really good CBD. And I was like, you're what? Like, to me, that's no different than spice, right? You're spraying a synthetic THC over potpourri, right? Now you're going to do it over CBD?
Oh, I've heard even worse, Joe. I heard people literally
just selling it.
There are people that are taking THC distillate and they're spraying that on CBD flower, and they're selling pounds of CBD flower as THC.
Yeah,
and because it produces effects because it's got a little distillate on it. I never thought we'd come to the day where we'd have to worry about our cannabis being adulterated and kind of cut in the same way that people are cutting other freaking hard drugs and stuff. But it's just it seems to be the case nowadays. There's a lot of
it's minimally processed in the flower form. I can see it in the extraction game, right? Because you nailed it, right? Look at the markets right now. How much does it cost to extract your flower, right, to a CBD isolate? That's a process to make an isolate, right?
Yeah.
What's an isolate worth right now? Nothing. So that the whole market's going to be gone really, really quickly. Now the problem with it, not that I disagree with it, but there's people out there that can't still take a chance of having THC in their system. You see what I mean? So if you're somebody that's working for law enforcement or a government job or a large corporate job where they're still not allowing you to smoke cannabis, or it's not legal in your state yet, where kind of like where we are here, where THC is not and medical is, that's where I look at the athletes, the sports franchises, state workers, people that legitimately could walk into a doctor's office tomorrow and get a prescription. I think every fucking, want to talk about the riots, let's give every fucking police officer a bottle of CBD isolate. So that's not going to make them
seriously
wrong.
Give them full spectrum, man. I think, honestly, I think that the whole, we've actually had a couple of people who have complained about failing a drug test. It's only happened, we sold to thousands and thousands of people, but there have been a couple people who were shocked when they failed the drug test from using our products. And it bioaccumulates in the body, and it can totally make you fail a drug test, which is why we need to start changing those drug laws to make it so people can use CBD, because it's really frustrating that people have to choose an inferior product knowingly just because they are getting drug tested when they're just trying to manage their pain, and maybe they can take an opiate or whatever, and it's just like we have so much hypocrisy in our freaking laws and our kind of world that we're living in right now that I think it's important to serve that population, and I think isolates do that, and I think broad spectrum even kind of does that. There's a company down in like South Carolina that has taken some of our oil to remediate it, and they say they don't use any solvents at all. They still won't be like completely open about their whole process on how they get the THC out of it, but this is to kind of like just make vape carts that are legal and really high CBD content, because the only way to kind of get your THC levels below 0.3 is to either use a lot of solvent or to figure out a way to get that THC out. And it's becoming super confusing for the consumer, because it's like they don't even know what the fuck isolate and full spectrum means. Now we're throwing broad spectrum at them, and it's just like people's heads are spinning, I feel like, when they're trying to digest this information. And I want to throw true full spectrum on there and really confuse everybody.
Right. I mean, broad spectrum is probably going to be the newest thing out there now, right? I mean, the Bubba Kush brand product that me and Brandon are now part of. Hopefully we'll get Bubba on the show here in the next couple of weeks, and we'll go over this brand new product, because it's the technology behind it is very revolutionizing in a way. And then, everyone's asking us how we do it, you know what I mean? Because there's ways to do things, and there's ways that traditionally we would do things that are this is a completely different way. So technically, you could take your product and put it in our bottles, and it will work for you in the same way. You know what I mean? We could use your oil and produce it in that way. What's nice about the way we produce it is that we could use anything that we want. So we could use an isolate, we could use a distillate, right? We could use a whole plant extraction. We could use CO2, anything you want, right?
To make it selective to the area. You could make it selective to whatever the country regulations are. It's more of technology, right, Joseph, than it is anything else. I mean,
well, with that, it is. It's kind of like, so you're playing. I mean, to explain it is an interesting concept. I mean, you're basically taking, you're making the world of a distillate, and you're making it a more precise distillation, because you're basically taking isolates and recombining them back together in the means to give you a whole plant experience without the THC. The idea is that what we're trying to get in this product is no THC, right? So the product that we're trying to build here is a product that we want to see in an athlete's hand, right? Like, it's the idea is that if you can't smoke, you can't vape, you know what I mean? Say you need instant, and you need instant. I mean, this is instant stuff, right? Because as you know, most things taken orally will get in your bloodstream faster. Now, the trick is getting it into the blood orally is not the easy part, right? Because a lot of what we do is like oils and tinctures will end up in our stomachs, right? So then it goes through our digestive system, ends up in our liver. So the idea to be the most health-minded you can is to get it out of your digestive system, because when we talk about patients, we're talking about people that, majority of patients have digestive issues, whether it's brought on by medicines that they're taking, laxatives that they need to take because of the medicines they're taking, you know what I mean? You don't want to disrupt anything like that. So when with the technology that's behind what we are working on right now, it not like alcohol, but the same kind of idea where the mist actually it gets the molecules down in such a particle that it's actually goes into the blood and is 7 times more effective and quicker. So like literally before you're done your next sentence, after you take a couple quick sprays, you feel it. It lasts like an edible. And now, I believe for the markets that don't want to smoke, or like the whole cart market, is where I really see an impact of this, because, we've just had, like you said, there's just too many variances and issues with the carts, and without a regulatory system and a system of proper testing, like, do I believe what I see on 90% of these boxes? Not really. No. I mean, I would love to see a real printed out test, but a lot of these guys just are printing stuff on the side of a box. You know what I mean? And working with people, I know that people are not honest with that, and they just, hey, put that there, put this here. Oh, it's a blended distillate, but we're gonna call it Blue Dream today.
Yep.
Yeah, we're just going to add some terpenes to this profile and, hey.
Are you guys adding terps to your product?
No.
We can. You can if you want. You can add terps. You can add anything you'd like to it. The product that we have out right now, it's just pretty much straightforward and bland. There's flavorings, there's terpenes, so it can be strain specific. And what's nice about it is, for us internally, for the initial launch right now, it's not 100% our product. But when we get the launch going, with the projection that we have, what we want to do in the back end, which is something we should definitely have a conversation about, is be able to produce our own product supply and distribution and packaging in every state. Right. That way we can abide by every state regulation. There's no crossing between state lines. You know what I mean? We just team up with growers and we create a collaboration of people all across the country. That's the way we want to do it with our brand, because it just creates a network and dude,
pretty grassroots. About as grassroots.
No, that's dope. That's a fucking big undertaking, man. Doing a different product in every state. That's a fucking serious. You got a big project ahead of you.
Yes,
it's a huge project, but I mean, so like when you look at the it's kind of like you guys. You know what I mean? We have a company. We have a very good company plan. We have a very good company vision. You guys started off, and you guys have hit your mark in everything you've done. So I mean, I give you guys a huge shout out for a company from Vermont that's grassroots, that came from really nothing. What you guys have succeeded to do, at least in Vermont, and I know it's well beyond Vermont now, has been amazing, right? As you know, it hasn't been easy. So
it's been a wild ride.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, for us, we got to do it in every state. But the thing for us that is great, we'll talk about the Bubba Kush brand, because everybody's been asking us. We haven't talked about it on the show at all. We've tried to disassociate it a little bit, because right now, me and Brandon are working about 22 hours a day trying to get it launched. We have 2 companies as we speak. And then we just last night got word that we might have just expanded our operations significantly. I don't know if that's something we can announce yet, but as you know, man, it's a lot of work. But like, when you believe in a product, like when you believe in something, like we're a lot like you, man. Like, as you know, most people don't realize, me and Brandon have been doing this for almost 2 years now, and we don't make any money doing it. We do it for the love of what we do and educating people and being able to meet people like you and help give you guys a platform to discuss with the world what you have going on and what it takes, because I think it's inspirational, right? Like, without you guys, I'm not inspired, right? Because some of the greatest stories are stories of conquest and triumphs, right? Because like nothing really comes easy, and if it comes easy, then you don't appreciate it, then it usually falls apart, right? And that's why we see a lot in business. So the successful people usually come from nothing. Jeff Bezos started in his garage. Now, he can.
That's exactly what, dude. That was where our first lab was. We set our lab up in the freaking garage. And that's where we pumped out all our product for a while, and we finally have upgraded our operations a little bit. But it really has. It's been so exciting, kind of starting at the farmers market and just watching this thing kind of not slowly take off, because it has been pretty fast the way it's happened looking back on it, but it still has just been like such an organic kind of thing that has allowed it to just kind of grow. And I don't know if I could never sell anything that I don't believe in. Right. And I think that's the only reason why this thing has worked so well, is just the amount of passion and inspiration I had getting into this thing. And it's just been able to be fueled by, we just keep on getting stories from people that love our products and how much they're helping change their life from X, Y, and Z. And the people I work with, the place that we're working, it's just like, it's been the most passionate, inspirational time of my life. And I really would love it if people could experience that on their own. And I really wish you guys the best of success with your brand. And I'm looking forward to kind of watching your guys' journey and seeing where that goes.
Yeah, I mean, Grant, I have literally taken a lot of time to do a lot of research on everything that's been conducted, like way before I even got involved. I mean, there was a lot of talk. I heard a lot of ideas and whatever. And then as things started to come to fruition and whatnot, and I started to see more testing, more results, more third party, more independence, more global independence, I was like, wow. So it's taken a lot, because I I've been very firm, and I know Joseph will agree with this, that it's always been, patience over profit. So now that we're actually in a point where we know that the product is what it is, we know what the technology is behind it. Yeah, it's a very exciting time because there's many things that can be done in many different ways.
That potential is exciting. It's honestly, it's what really drives me the most, is like having a company that's pretty much expandable in all directions, and it's just like choose which direction you want to go and just start throwing energy into that and watching it grow. And it's exciting. And if you got a really good product and you got a good team behind it and you put your energy into it, it'll go. It's just those pieces have got to be there.
Definitely. I agree.
No, it's and the team is where it really counts, man. It's really where it counts. So yeah, no, it's exciting, man. The best part I love about it is like we can put the Vermont Pure CBD into the bottle with it, and now we have an isomist Vermont Pure CBD spectrum product, right? And
dude.
Let's do it. And now, right? Well, that's what I'm saying, man. I got so many people I believe in that could literally, like, this technology, like, we could help, like, it's another market that's kind of there. And when you read about the market and like, so like, we have inhalers, there's sprays, there's misters already, right? But a lot of people are doing it wrong. And like, we've seen a lot of people inhale to people, like, it's a great idea. It works in its own way, but when you start realizing the science behind it, as a chef, I'm OCD about all this stuff. You know what I mean? As you are too. You know what I mean? Like we're researching, right, constantly reading, constantly trying to find that little angle and that little thing. Where people are using oils don't absorb. You know what I mean? Then you're using ethanols. Ethanols evaporate, but then you still have something on your tongue that's not absorbing because it's the oil. There's no binders and there's no ways to get that molecules down. When you start talking about nanomolecules, right? You still have to have a binder, right? So they're water soluble, but they don't. You have to shake them up every time. You have to have a binder to keep them separated out of the water. Otherwise, they will solidify on their own and they will separate, right? So then you don't have a good spray. For us, it's medically minded product. So it's here's a dosage that you can get. One squirt, 2 squirts, and that's it. You walk away. There's no, if you're an athlete, you can do it on a field. If you're a worker at work, you can do it in the middle of your field. You know what I mean? Right. It's such a fine-tuned product that literally, like Brandon was saying, we have patients already that we are doing custom blends for.
Yep.
And we're working with them right now, trying to develop a personalized custom blend. And what we want to do with Bubba Kush is part of the reason why our business plan is this. And whoever's listening can listen and reach out to us, is we want to team up with farms in every state. Why? Because, like you said, it's diversification. If we have a flood, if we have an issue somewhere in the country, our product doesn't stop, right? B, Bubba believes in networking. The guy's been in the industry forever. He's one of the greatest guys in the industry. Everybody knows and loves Bubba, right? So he, his idea that when we connect with other farms, you know what I mean? We have a genetics line, we have clothing lines, we have all these different things, but connecting with the farms is where it really counts for us, because now we grow our product in Vermont, right? You grow it for us. There's a connection there. You're putting it in your bottle. It's just, dude, they're great connections, right? But the idea is that, again, teaming up with very good growers, support the system, support the local economies, keep our products made in their state. So now, even if we sold Bubba Kush brand products, if it was, Vermont Pure CBD, that's our team, they're selling a product that's great as well. So it's like, we believe in the local cultures, especially craft here in Vermont. Like, we don't want to just take off a farm in Mexico and sell product. You know what I mean? Being health and athlete minded is where Bubba's at. You know what I mean? Because we're dealing with patients, man. Like, we're all dealing with patients. It's not about getting stoned anymore. If you're in this business, it's not about really getting stoned anymore, because we've seen how much it helps. So his biggest thing, we're launching our CBD line first. We have a THC line ready for the legal markets.
Yep.
We have 2-to-1s, 1-to-1s, 4-to-1s, 5-to-1s, and we really believe that that's where the medical market needs to go. Like you hit it earlier, like a 1-to-1, a real true full spectrum product, a whole spectrum, whatever you want to call it, right? true to flower product is what we really need in this industry. So when you walk into a place, you can be like, hey, this is the flower that treats me right. This is a strain that works for me.
Joe, I'm sorry, man. I speak from personal experience. I know you do, and I've seen it firsthand with real patients. Ingredients make a difference, and it works. I promise you, it works.
I want to try this shit, dude.
Grant, we should get together. I got some testers, and
Definitely,
literally, Bubba will be out here. Brandon will be out here by the end of the month. So maybe we all should sit down and we'll come visit the store.
Oh, that'd be great, dude. Yeah, you guys should make a little trip. Where are you guys located exactly in Vermont?
I'm in Northfield. Brandon is literally in Phoenix, Arizona. Yep. So I'm really the only one on the show that's from Vermont. We were pretty well spread. Thomas is like technically New York. We have Tim Fair, our lawyer, is usually on. Thomas had a knee operation yesterday, so he's a mess. And being the true grassroots cannabis guy, he's refusing all pain medications, so he's a little hung up today. Tim, he gets busy, man. But that's the team that we have, and like you said, a great team is where things happen. When you build a team, you have to have a lawyer.
Do it all yourself. Even the best quarterbacks need that team around them.
Right, exactly. Like with Tom Brady can't win a Super Bowl without a good receiver or a Gronkowski or somebody. You know what I mean? And that's a great way of putting it when you talk about it.
Exactly.
But
it's go for it.
Oh no, I was just gonna say for real. As far
I'm gonna join you guys. I might smoke a little bit. I wasn't sure if this was a smoking show, but I see you guys smoking, so I'm gonna join.
Oh, we smoke the whole time.
We smoke all the time.
By all means, please.
I gotta catch up.
So I mean, we work very hard not to be like bong hit radio, but now that we're on the live stream, man, it's 420. Like we're trying to break stigmas. We're trying to prove that we can be successful in this world without being stoners. I mean, and
dude, Rogan's smoking on every one of his podcasts, and he just sold his freaking show for $100 million. I think it's okay to smoke some weed. You can even eat some mushrooms. I think he was eating mushrooms on the last show I listened to.
Oh man,
it's accepted.
Dude, huge shout out to Rogan. Not like he needed to make another $100 million because his show is very successful, but like as far as like where it shows where time has come from. You know what I mean? Like I watch Rogan religiously every day. Like he was one of our biggest influences on this show, just being like how he approaches guests. You know what I mean? Like he's very open, honest, and then as the show goes on, he tightens up on you, and then it's like he Rogans you a little bit. But
I love it, man. I've been listening to him since like the beginning when he was like just started the podcast with Brian Redband. It's been awesome watching that journey grow, and honestly, I credit him.
Man. The best part about him, he hasn't really changed. He just stays true to himself. He stays true to his guest, and like
authenticity, dude. That shit shows so much, and
dude. Have you ever seen his blooper, like his argument reel? Like I was watching that the other day of all of his arguments he's been on the show. Because I mean, he's real, dude. He's a real dude. If he doesn't agree with you, he's not going to agree with you. And if it gets hot and heated, he gets hot and heated. You know what I mean? Him and Alex Jones were going back and forth. I mean, a lot of his great guests. But like they're great shows, and it's a lot like our show, man. Like where we really try to open up the true person that we're speaking to, because I think a lot of conversations with interviews do not go any deeper than the question and answers. You know what I mean? When we first started our show, like you can ask Brandon, I'm very focused, derived on how we produce the show for radio. Right now, we don't even know what we're doing. We're just doing it. And we're so busy doing everything else. It's like we can't wait to get this launch, because with this launch, it becomes everything we ever want to do with our show, right? So like we have big dreams. It's all going to happen, but just like you, we've tried to fall in bed with investors. We try to team up with different players. We haven't had very good success. We've been screwed over. We got lots of people that owe us lots of money. You know what I mean? Like we could call out a lot of people, but that's not really our style.
It's tough to get shit going, dude. You got to throw a lot of shit at the wall. This is like my third business, dude. I had my original Green Mountain tincture was the original like business I had selling tinctures and stuff, and I was trying to like do Reiki, do a bunch of different things, and it just like it takes a lot to do your own thing, especially if you don't have a bunch of money behind you and somebody else that's like setting you up in some way, like if you're going to self-create and you're going to go out there on a limb and create your own show and try to do a grassroots movement and create organic growth never happens fast. Like you can't just like put yourself out there and expect things to just like money to start coming in. It's as successful as our company's been.
The right money, right? You want the
right?
It's
crazy,
money.
Dude. We've literally had the most things that could possibly go right, and as little go wrong that could go wrong, and it's taken all that to make it work. And it's just like I don't know how a lot of businesses get going after being through this whole process of the startup. The startup phase is fucking gnarly, dude.
Yeah.
And I don't think many people start it and make it through the whole process and actually create a legitimate business, because it's a grind, I think, no matter what you're doing.
It's an understatement, man. I agree.
A lot of people, I mean, dude, I come over the restaurant industry, so it's like, you know, I've had girlfriends, and I'm sure we all have. They're like, "Why are you working 100 hours a week? I don't get it. Don't you love me or your family?" It's like, well, you're grinding for something. You know, you believe in something, so you grind for it, right? You know, I think it's a complex. Every person has man, woman, right? But it takes a special person to be able to do that. Not a lot of people are going to commit to, you know, the Joe Rogans, all the positive guys that talk about, you know, positive, how to live their life successful like they do. And, you know, and you get up and you realize it's a regimen. Like they're not lazy people. You know what I mean? You know, it's a regiment. These guys get up and they go, and like, you know, you speak about Joe Rogan, dude, he does a 4-hour show, and then he goes and works out, and then he goes and does an MMA fight at night, and then he goes and does something else, and he goes and does something
else.
Yeah.
No, the guy's nonstop, dude. And like, that's honestly was some of my biggest inspiration when I was working at that tomato farm. I could listen to those 4-hour episodes while doing my plant work all fucking day. And I literally just filled my head with inspirational people who were talking about things I was interested in. And just having people that are so passionate and inspirational, filling your head with good ideas and good words. I think that's a very powerful thing. And I think that's really what allowed me to take a leap of faith. And like having him talk about constantly, like, just putting the questions out there, like, why are you doing what you're doing and stuff? And like, well, it's impossible to not reflect on your life and to ask some of the bigger questions when you're having these guys tackle them. And when
he's just real about shit. That's the best thing. Like, that's what we do here. We just try to be real. Like, again, there's no questions, there's no answers, there's no setups, there's no
authenticity, dude. I think this freaking world is starving for authenticity. That's another reason why I think our brand's done so well, and that's why I can sell products so much better in person, because I come across you can only hide bullshit for so long when you're talking to somebody, and when you actually get hit with authenticity in a world that's literally been shoving bullshit down our throats, and
we don't literally anymore. This is our world right here.
Shit food, shit fucking music, shit, like just shit goddamn on top of shit. And it's just insane that like we've gotten to this point where if somebody puts out something authentic, it feels so good because we just are so used to this facade that we've been living in.
Or authentic. What I somewhat agree, but I have to disagree a little bit. I think
I love it.
This day and age that we have, authenticity is people. It's so rare that people don't believe it. You know what I mean? It's not like it just gets blown by. It's like to the point where literally, like when you're a real person with somebody, you become skeptical to them, because they're so used to like not being people being real with them, right? Brandon, we deal with this all the time, right?
Yeah.
Relationships, friendships, people like, and then the minute you're real with them, they take offense to it. And now they're mad at you, and you're just trying to be real with somebody. You know what I mean? And that's it. That's the twofold part of the issues nowadays. And then we have this, right? It's like when you talk about being authentic and real and being able to sell something to somebody, what's this now? Like our whole culture below us, our whole generations below us are all on their phone. Everything comes through an email. Everything comes from a controlled source on the internet, whether it's a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter. Like, when we were talking about launching our brand, we were laughing about websites. We're like, how important is a website nowadays? Like for sales, yeah, we have to have a website, but literally where's everybody buying shit from? They're buying it off of Facebook. They're buying it off of Instagram. They're hitting that link. You know what I mean? So it's a different world, you know. In the music industry, everything we focus on websites now. Like a website's really like why, you know what I mean? You just have to have everybody have a link to where your music is, you know. So it's a different marketing experience, right? Like you know, like you said 3, 4, 5 years ago, you have to go to all the farmers markets. Now you just have to put a really good website up that says you grow organic vegetables, because every tourist that comes into the state is going to go right to their phone and Google whatever they're looking for, right? And so it's going to be whatever Google tells them, and wherever they can find whatever, then the first thing they're going to go to is going to be their main social media outlet, whether it's, you know, most of us it's Facebook, right? Like, you know, even people that do Instagram, they're on Facebook. They start on Facebook at the beginning of the day. They get messages there. Everybody checks it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, that's been a crazy learning experience, actually, because I'm a grower, you know, and I know how to like sell certain things, and I know how to create business, but I've never done it on this scale, and I've never done it digitally. And trying to freaking digitally market and crack into that space and move the needle with, oh man, that has been one of the most difficult things, because we're none of us on our team. That's probably our weakest area, is digital advertising. We've invested with a couple different agencies. I feel like one agency we kind of just wasted money with for a year, and they barely kind of drove traffic. And we started working with another company recently who seems to be a little bit better for sure. But at the same time, these people are marketers, and they're just really good at selling you on that they're going to actually help your company and do something for you that's going to be beneficial. And
they're saying they're better salesmen than marketers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's just like their whole thing is marketing, so they're good at marketing themselves. And it's just like it's really hard to just know who to trust in that space and where to put your money. And like it's a wild west situation that I'm still trying to figure out, and where to put the energy, and where is it a waste, because there's a lot of waste. You can waste money so quickly on the internet and advertising. And
Grant, I think that you're really onto something there. I think that was maybe one advantage that we really had was like Joe, I was an international DJ, so I was one of those guys for a very long time, with and without management, where I was always doing marketing and promotions and Photoshop work and booking gigs and talking to people and all sorts of stuff like that. So, and I know Joe has definitely been in that type of realm too as well. And I think having that type of a background now
huge
is so huge, because without that, I'd be lost. I'd be a dinosaur. I would be.
Dude, I am a firm believer that I needed to go through all my successes and failures before I started this project in order to make this project as successful as it is today. Because every single thing, and it's crazy because our whole team has experienced it too, where it's like one guy went to Cornell for plant breeding and genetics, has tons of laboratory experience, was working in like shipping centers where like they had to figure out how to ship a bunch of product out. Like there's just so many little things about the business you don't really think about, and that prior knowledge and experience, if you've started a business of any kind, or if you've marketed anything, like it's just the same thing with what I've said to people recently. I feel like I literally got the best school of business that I ever could have gotten the last 2 years. It could not pay for the education I was able to get, because it's just firsthand experience, man. It's incredibly valuable, and the amount of crossover that you have to other industries, and just having a wide knowledge base and having an ability to know how to do certain things, it's transferable to so many other projects and stuff. And the fact that you guys both have done your own thing, you self-marketed yourself, you dealt with business, and you know exactly like kind of how the music industry works. There's a huge crossover between the music industry and a lot of these other things, and marketing and selling is marketing and selling at the end of the day. And as soon as you kind of figure out the formula and how to move the needle and how to kind of get stuff out, and the fact that you guys also have a radio show that you've been working on, like I know you're like, oh, we're just doing this for like fun and stuff like that, which is great. And I think that's like unbelievable that you guys are still doing it as long as you've been doing it and you haven't been making any money. But building that platform, building that trust with that audience, having all those people that you've already been connected with, that network, like just the network alone, you can't put value on this stuff, or it's hard to quantify what it's worth, but like experience, who you know, what you know, and your just overall knowledge base is just about as valuable as anything.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is pretty cool to be able to walk into a party and know, like, I don't know, Mr. Soul, Frenchie Cannoli,
Right.
Ed Rosenthal.
Ed Rosenthal.
Yeah, that's a powerful network, dude.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
it's not what you know, it's who you know. I think I'm a firm believer of that.
Dude, well, literally, this whole project kind of fell in our laps because of our show. You know what I mean? Because of our approach and our attitudes. Because we can't, I mean, we bumped heads before. Yeah, we've had people try to buy the show and people get involved in the show and want to invest in the show. And Brandon's like, yeah, let's do this. And I'm like, no. And I've been like, yeah, let's do this. And Brandon's like, fuck no. And then we've tossed the egg around a few times to see if it was going to crack or not. And it would crack. And then, we would sign a deal. Then obviously, we got a lot of money owed to us.
It's got to feel right. That's literally all I've been doing the last couple of years. Right? Following feelings, dude. I left my job out of a complete feeling and like needing to leave my previous job into like this unknown situation where I had a little bit of a business, but just felt a real yearning to like kind of go see what else was out there and go into the unknown, and just been following feelings ever since then. And I feel like is hard work this project has been, it's been really effortless at the same time. And it wasn't like I was like grinding away at trying to find I really do think it was an organic idea that kind of came to me in the way that it happened, and then the way that it's kind of taken off. There hasn't been a time where I've been having to like force anything in a lot of ways. And I think as soon as you start forcing stuff, especially when you're like get the feeling that it's not right, like if you, for instance, had that idea that like you wanted to share with Brandon, and Brandon was like, no, it doesn't feel right to me, and then you kept on pushing it and you forced it on him, it probably wouldn't have gone very well. Like, thank God you guys got the time where you guys both have something that you both feel good about. And if you guys have that feeling together, I think that's when you know that there's some juice there.
Well, I mean, it started off with a really great immediate relationship with two people, you know what I mean? Like, Bubba, Matt, Matt Berger, everybody knows Bubba, right? And then MTF Jeff Wells, who's one of Bubba's partners. So they become really great supporters of the show. And, we just find ourselves talking to these guys almost daily, you know what I mean? And then when we start to, when people ask us our opinions, we're very opinionated, obviously, and then it just goes from there. Now, we land a project where people, the best part about this is like kind of what you were saying, like you have a team, you believe in everybody, and you know what I mean. Nobody is ever going to be on the same page, which is the best part about a good team to me. You know what I mean? Because like for me and Brandon, as much as we're on the same page, we have different mentalities and a lot of things. So we play devil's advocate extremely well together. You know what I mean?
It's really important.
It's like when you got those friends that pat you on the back constantly,
you did so good.
Yeah, right. You don't want a bunch of yes men around you.
No, man. Not if you're trying to succeed in something. Because again, first of all, like you said, you have to have a team around you. I couldn't be doing this show without Brandon or without even our co-hosts that have been on the show and the people who've been through the show. You know what I mean? Like everybody has a part to everything that goes on here. You know what I mean? Because like you said, it's organic, it's natural, right? We're not buying ads, we're not forcing it down people's throats, we're not doing anything that's not natural, right? And we've been very successful with it. So, and then it's opened the doors to us to the right thing. I think, like what you said, every success story I've ever heard when people have been really down, like almost in the worst parts of their life. Me and Brandon have been down in the worst part of our life for a while now. So, every artist,
bitch around, guys.
Let's think about it. I mean, Starbucks, the guy was living in his garage. You know what I mean? Every success story, the guy who made GoPros was like living in his mom's basement. You know what I mean? Some of the greatest music guys ever were like literally working, side jobs. Some of the greatest football players ever were pulled off the deli, you know what I mean? When the number was called. So it's like,
man.
Success stories are wonderful. It's very rarely do you hear one where you're like, oh, I was born into this and I was handed this and I was given that. Usually those are the failure rates because people just don't appreciate the work it takes to do it.
No. And there's a lot.
understands the work it takes to do even what we do with the show. You know?
Thank God I didn't know the work that it took. If I knew what it took before I started, I don't know if I ever would have started. I'm just glad that I was so blissfully ignorant when getting into this shit and just like following a dream and just like, this feels really good. And like, I want to do this. And it really just took off at a rate that I never could have like expected, even though my belief was always so high and I always did think that Vermont Pure was going to become a big thing. And I really think that having that belief is an important factor because, I mean, it's really corny and it's a cliche, but I think it's a cliche for a reason. You really can't do shit that you don't believe. And if you really have belief in yourself and your product and what you're doing, it's a lot easier to wake up every day and to continue to keep doing it. Because I think that belief is just, it's your wind in your sails and what allows you to keep moving forward every day and keep putting energy into things that you're putting it into. And if you lose that, you're fucked. You might as well go do something else that you actually believe in because it's just a waste of time, I feel.
Yep. Well, too many people do that in life, man. I see it everywhere. People are just miserable in their jobs that they're at, and their job is 75% of your life, dude. So why work?
Even higher sometimes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I've always said that. Like, unless you find your dream job and you're in your actual position that you absolutely want to be in life, strive higher. Like, why do you have to wait till you don't have a job before you apply for other jobs? Or why do you have to even like be desperate before you start creating other opportunities for yourself? Like, there's so much complacency in our culture where people will just look for a job until they get a job, and then they won't look for a job until they lose that job. And it's just like, was that job your dream job? Until you get to that dream job, like, keep on putting out applications, keep on trying new shit, keep on trying different hobbies. Like, I just think that people just get complacent, but people are complacent with their relationships. People are complacent with their food, their physical. It's just, there's complacency across the board. And I feel like very few people kind of access the potential that is inside of them. But we all know kind of what our potential is. And it's hard to kind of ignore it when you actually know what you're capable of. And I think until you hit that potential, there's going to be something inside of you that's starving to kind of get at it.
No, I totally agree. In the culinary world, where you're heavily inspired to change up your positions a lot, man. Because for me, it's always been like, all right, this is what I want to do in life. This is what I need to learn to achieve it. If I can't afford to put myself through school to learn it, then I need to go learn this aspect, that aspect, this aspect, that aspect. So, all right, there's 5 jobs I got to go and do, right? Go work for them for a couple of years, master that trade, get comfortable with it, go on to the next trade. You know what I mean? And that's where I think people really need to go. And then, like you said, whatever lights that fire within you, stay with it. If there's no fire there, move on, man. It's like you said, in relationships, anything, because like, I mean, your overall mentality. I mean, too many people stay, like you said, oh well, it's a good paycheck, so I have to stay here. I have to rely on this. My family relies on this. My wife relies on this. Oh, it's an easy dinner tonight, so we're gonna make mac and cheese, and then now you become sufficient on those types of dinners because you're either becoming too tired or lazy. And 90% of that, dude, I think. Dude, I'm a high-strung guy, so I'm not. Maybe this doesn't apply for everybody, but like what you're saying exactly applies to is like, I think if you work a miserable job, dude, right, and you go 8 hours a day, you come home at 5 o'clock, you're miserable, right? You're not happy to be home, and that misery affects your family and affects your lifestyle, right? Now you don't want to make dinner. You're lazy. You're pissed. You're miserable. You don't want to deal with your kids. Everything's a nightmare. Your wife's annoying you. Like everything's annoying. So you go out and you go do a hobby, right? So now your family dynamic fuck because you have a bad job, right? But now if you're happy, dude, it's hard to go home. I mean, I've worked in jobs where I don't want to go home because I'm fucking enjoying my job and I got a project I want to finish because tomorrow's going to be more exciting. And then when I get home, I'm excited because I had a great day and I want to hug my kid and make dinner for my wife or my girlfriend, and you know what I mean, like you just
that's why I say it's effortless, man. When you're in that flow and you're in that thing that you're supposed to be doing, you can work 80-hour weeks. Yeah. It feels less than 40 at a job.
If you love what you do, you'll never work a day of your life, right?
Dude, I feel like I've been retired for like 2-3 years.
Right? No, I feel it, dude. I do the same thing.
Without the retirement fund and all the other like cushy retirement things that people like to have. But I really have been doing what I love every day. And it's just such a blessing to wake up and feel that. And I do think that's so true. And
it's literally hashtag make your story. Like, you know,
exactly.
The thing that drives me nuts, and you know, we'll go a little on this edge, is the people that have kids that think life's over. You know what I mean? It's like, the adventure's just begun, right? Like the guys that I can't go out because I have a kid. Well, bring your fucking kid, dude. You know what I mean? Like maybe I have different mentalities with my kid, but like, you know what I mean? I think a lot of people just they fall into the rut of society that we've kind of outlined for them. You know what I mean? Which is like, go get a job, go get married, go have 5 kids, and be miserable the rest of your life. Drink lots of wine, pop a few fucking pills, and you'll be fine.
Yeah. You know? Well, we give into that resistance. Like we all kind of have that voice in our head. It's not like even myself, I have days when I'm more motivated and days when I just like don't do the things that I should be doing because resistance beat my ass that day, you know? But like it's the little voice inside your head that'll just like come in every single time you're about to do something big or important in your life, and it'll try to convince you not to do it. And if you could just learn how to override that little voice and choose to do the thing that you know you should be doing because it feels right, and to really just go for it. And every single time what I really like doing is just using like a little bit of hindsight as foresight. Like look back on your life. When's the last time you took a chance and sent it and went for it and regretted it? Because it's like never fucking happened for me, especially if with
even
your heart. And like maybe if it was a really ego-based decision, like maybe it could have gone wrong. But like if you're like, I even remember saying this when I first quit my job, and my parents were like really questioning me if I was like knew what I was doing or doing the right thing. Like, you got a good job, it pays well. Like, you sure you want to do this and stuff like that? And I was like, I feel like I have to. Like, I got to follow my heart. And I've never heard of anybody truly following their heart and taking a leap of faith and having a story of regret afterwards. No, it tends to usually end up pretty good. Yeah. So I think that if you can take those leaps of faith and do it in the direction of your heart, just keep doing it until you land in the place that you want to land. And if you're not there yet, keep jumping.
Yeah, right. No, seriously, man. I mean, that's everybody's success story usually starts off there or starts off in a place where they were in a really dark place in their life. Something happened to them, a major failure, whether it was professionally or personally. And you read about it across the board, you know what I mean? And then like, it's literally when you're in your dark, dude, and that's kind of what saved me. I mean, I've been in dark places before, and like, I'd laugh because I'd be watching TV and like an actor would come on and be like, I remember watching a show on him about how, you know, where he was in such a dark place in life. And then, you know, it's like what everybody will tell you, it just takes one person to believe in you. You know what I mean? Whether you're an architect or whether you were a radio show, whether you're Vermont Pure CBD, you just need a person to believe in you. And usually, hopefully that's your financial investor, right? But it goes from there. You know what I mean? Like when you're an artist, when, you know, it takes one person to hand you the keys to something and let you do what you need to do to make your mark, right? It's kind of like what you made your mark in your business. Someone handed you the keys, right? And you did the best you did. And then we all have those struggles. And that's the thing that people need to hear, because we live in a society that doesn't allow you to have a struggle on a daily basis, right? Or a string of struggles where, you know, we don't all wake up in a great mood every day. You know what I mean? And sometimes that one day can affect the rest of your life or not. You know what I mean? It truly depends on who's around you and the support and the understanding you have with your bosses or whatever, right? Like I've seen many people go into a business or their job and blow it up because they had an argument at home. You know, something that didn't have to happen. You know what I mean? So you know, we have to accept our losses and be open-minded enough to move forward. And those are the people that are successful, like you. You know what I mean? Like we've been up, we've been down, we've had positives, we've had negatives. But I guess at the end of the day, you just don't stop, right?
You can't, dude. And like it's you're gonna have victories, you're gonna have losses, and I feel like that persistence and also just staying optimistic about things. Like I'm really lucky that I've kind of got a part of me that just naturally is always optimistic, and I feel like as soon as you get optimistic, it just opens you up to the possibilities, and you start thinking in ways that allow you to create solutions and look for opportunities. And as soon as you get pessimistic, all those doors and all those thoughts, they shut down. Yep. And it's just like the pessimism kills people, and people, it helps when you have somebody that believes in you, but really what people need is true belief in themselves, and to like really just get in touch with themselves and what they want to do. Because I think that that's really what's been a huge credit to my success, is like just listening and knowing when certain ventures, like I think that there's certain, I have this feeling about relationships and also jobs and a lot of just situations in life that we have opportunities kind of come to us at a certain time, and it's our job to kind of take advantage of those opportunities when they come, and to take those leaps of faith when we have the chance to, because I think the more you do that, the more it allows the next opportunity to open up. And you can get stuck at certain levels, and you can get stuck in certain relationships, and it's really easy to get comfortable and be like, well, I like this job for the last 3 years, and just stay at the job for another 3 years, even though you don't feel the same way you felt about it. We do it with relationships all the time, where people just get complacent in relationships and they stay with somebody because it's more comfortable, or because they have a house together, or because they have kids together, whatever the reason is that they convince themselves to stay together, when in their heart of their heart, they know that time has come and they should be doing something else. And they just, we are so stubborn sometimes in our ability to convince ourselves that that feeling's wrong. And that feeling's never wrong from what I've experienced. And it's a lot more accurate and a lot better of a guide than these thoughts that we kind of produce in our heads, and we try to justify everything through thinking. Because like when I tried to fucking explain why I was leaving my original job to go start this other company, it was so hard to put into thoughts and words that made sense, and didn't have people like kind of look at me like, you sure you know what you're doing? Like it's just, I think that their thoughts misguide us, and I'm a really headstrong person that can get caught up into those different lines of thinking. And I think your head just will convince you to not do things that you know your heart knows you should do. And it's a difficult thing to kind of explain, but I think a lot of people are stuck in their heads, and they don't know how to take leaps of faith, and they really don't know how to listen to themselves, and they convince themselves that they can't do the thing they know they should be doing.
Yep. I mean, ever since day one, you're taught, get married, have a family, find the one job that you love and stick with it, right? You're not taught to find who you are. You know what I mean? Like, how many people
we're not taught how to
doing,
find who we are. Like we
how
have all
many people are still doing their first job that they started? How many people are still with their first girlfriend that they started with? And like, I mean, I know people do it, but that's not an easy thing. I mean, there's a lot of give and takes there. You know what I mean? And it's
maybe your first job or your first girlfriend's the perfect one, like I think that's beautiful, but very rarely is that the case for most people.
Right.
But the thing for me is, like, I think what most people forget every day is that you need to wake up and realize that you make your own choices. Like you said, it's not anybody else's choice to wake up and go to that job, but your own job, right? It's your choice to wake up at 5 o'clock, not 10 o'clock, right? These are choices that you make to lead to your healthier lifestyle. That's where it starts, right? It doesn't start with, oh, I choose to, not eat meat today. You know what I mean? That's a start, but like, it's a real physical start. You know what I mean? Like, you have to start somewhere. So make those choices. Those choices are yours, right? Everyone's like, well, how'd you do that? Do you know how many people ask me? It's just like you. I'm sure you hear a lot. Well, how'd you get into the cannabis industry? How'd you start a radio show? I'm like, I don't know. I just walked into the door and said I want to start a radio show, and like started doing it. You know what I mean? How do
don't
I do
wait
it?
for someone to give you the permission, man. I really think that we've been for that too long too.
And like, and through our life, like you know what I mean? Every time I ran to an obstacle or a wall, I would figure the way around, you know what I mean? Like, and typically, like Brandon said, in the music industry, you hit walls every time you turn around, and you had to figure the way around. So we always have the workarounds. And like you said, I have a graphic designer that wants $20. I got to learn how to do it myself. I got to learn how to do this myself. I got to learn how to do that myself. I'm a restaurant-minded guy. So it's like, you try to be as self-sufficient as possible. So you learn lots of things. So hopefully one day have it all pay back for you, right? So we play lots of different things, right? But if I only learn one thing, I'm really only pigeonholed to one thing. You know what I mean? That's where I think people lose sight. They look at us and they go, hey, you look like you have a great, if you talk to all these fun people, you're everywhere. Well, dude, that's hard work. It's money. It's stress. It's time for my family. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand that on the back end. Like with even like celebrities, man. You know what I mean? We all have a fictional picture of life. That's why we love this show, because people think you're a co-owner of a company. They're going to have a very different preliminary thought about who you are, rather than see you come on a show and be honest with people.
Yeah, no, it's real easy to judge someone and judge a book by its cover, but I think once you really get to know the story behind people and really understand things at a little deeper level, it's a lot more complicated than what most people judge and think.
Right.
Sure.
For sure, man. I got little kittens running around. Hey, little kitty.
Well, Joseph, you know what? You should probably say goodbye.
It is that time, guys. Grant, thank you for a great show, man. We hit on a lot of subjects today. It was really good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
It's great. The story is awesome, man, because it's, it should inspire people to believe that they can start from nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you don't need,
nothing. Literally an idea.
Believe.
Idea. Go for it.
Right?
Idea and a leap of faith.
Right? Leap of faith. Go shake some hands. We got little kittens here, I guess.
Yeah, no, dude, I can't thank you guys enough for having me on the show. It's been a lot of fun, and it's good to connect. I hope that we get together in person at some point. I feel like we're all kind of ready for some
oh, yeah, definitely.
closer physical socialization going on instead of the screen stuff, but it's still cool that we're able to connect this way, and I greatly appreciate you guys spending your time with me today and inviting me on.
Hey, man, we appreciate you being on. We're going to wrap it up. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us till we get off, and then, guys, we'll be here next week.
Dope.